Hello! This is a much different video than I normally upload, but I figured I'd try out something different this time, with an unboxing video. And I did get my hands on something pretty rare for the occasion. Now recently, I've been inspired after seeing Toy Shelf's video on rare One Piece figures. Please check it out, I'll leave a link in the description. After seeing those figures, I instantly got hooked once again into the strange and fascinating world of One Piece toys and action figures. Now there's not too much to look at for such a list. A big part of it is Mattel. In 2005, Mattel produced a couple of waves of One Piece figures based off of the infamous 4Kids dub. These toy lines mainly featured Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, the regulars, but surprisingly enough, no Nami or Usopp to find anywhere. But I'll forgive them, as we actually did get the only figure inclusions of Captain Kuro and the topic of today's video, Don Krieg. Which is too bad because he's one of my favorite East Blue villains. These figures all have gimmicks to them, like Luffy's arms being made of rubber, Kuro's blades dangling. The P-Rips are different though, instead of focusing on a Beyblade-esque ripcord that once pulled would power up the figure and include a feature. This is what they decided to make Don Krieg, which isn't a bad idea actually, seeing his arsenal of different automatic weapons, so I'm excited to see how it's utilized in this figure. By the way, I am very embarrassed to say how much I had to go through in order to get a hold of this figure. I wasn't even looking for one in box to really do for a video like this, but lo and behold, it's the only one I could find. If you're looking to get your hands onto one of these, my only advice is definitely just keep close eyes onto sites like eBay or Mercari, just kind of weird single seller sites like that, though maybe a little sketchy at points. At any point they could pop up. Either way, it's time to completely destroy the value of this completely sealed inbox fragment of time. Here we have the Don Krieg P-Rips, with the DVD inside titled One Piece, The Hunt Begins. For my knowledge, this comes with every P-Rips. We'll have to look at the DVD a bit later. Right now, our focus is on the man himself. The packaging is really nice actually. The colors really pop on the box, and I also like the holes and tears on the top. Gives it a good kind of battle look to it. It's really great they have to specify on the side of the box that the DVD isn't a toy. On the back of the box, there's a nice display showing off what the figure's main functions are, firing off his missiles, and we could also see the other figures in the set on the bottom. I'd like to note that the person who I bought this from was selling the entire lot of 4, but I only wanted to get my hands on Don Krieg. He was definitely the rarest of the whole set, especially saying how this is his only action figure ever. Hopefully we'll see more villains in the Anime Heroes line, but I won't get my hopes up. Now, opening this thing was actually pretty difficult. I tried to take as much caution as I could opening it, and keeping the package in as good of a condition as possible. I mean, I like to keep the package even if I'm not going to be using it. It felt like he was stuck in there, like over time he just kind of morphed with the package itself. I literally struggled to pull him out, but he eventually budged, and here we have him, with all his missiles and the DVD. I do really like the setup here, with his missiles on the sides all around him, and the power cord looks really cool too, with his flag marker on the end. Here we have a manual explaining how to get him to shoot. Now, the camera doesn't really catch this too much, but the plastic that kind of holds around the figure looks really just disgusting, being like a weird brownish green kind of look rather than the clear plastic that we're more so used to seeing with newer action figures. And here's the big man himself. I do mean big. He's a lot taller than I figured. Looking at pictures of him, he's about 7 inches. Very sturdy and built. By a look standpoint, this isn't terrible. I mean, I'm not a fan of his mouth, and I mean, just the whole face just doesn't really look good at all, but everything else looks just fine. And the colors are all correct at least. For looks, I'll give it a B-. The head doesn't have much movement because, surprisingly enough, it's the trigger for the missiles. His shoulder pads do have some good movement onto them at least, but his arms are very stiff and just have a bit of a swivel to them. Very, very basic. They keep getting caught against the sides of his armor, though. It's very awkward trying to move his arms back and forth between that point. I kept feeling like I was gonna break it. His legs have the same basic movement as the arms as well, which doesn't help. Honestly, this just feels like a huge, old, like kind of vintage Star Wars figure, so for the actual movement of this toy, it's really basic and bare bones. I'd just give it a D and call it a day. And now we're gonna load this dude up with his missiles and see how well they launch, saying that that's the main function of the figure after all. Which he does look really cool with all the missiles. He definitely looks a lot more complete now. I forgot to mention how well they made the cape in the back. That's definitely the best looking part of the figure. The paint there is really spot on and the holes are really cool too. Now loading the ripcord into him is pretty awkward, being in his back, and you need to have both of his arms to be up in order to actually get the cord fully in. Either way, you get the cord in, quickly pull it out, that charges him up, so all you have to do is push his head and he shoots the missiles. And while he does that, he makes a shriek I could only assume is from the pits of hell.
Fuck.
If you couldn't tell, I didn't really think this over too much. The bullets flew everywhere in my kitchen, so picking them up was very annoying, obviously, but they do have some good distance to them, so I'd say that it's a definite plus for the toy. I'd give it a B-, though, because of how hard it is to actually get him to fire the missiles and charge him up for that shot. The head being the trigger is pretty difficult to actually push down to activate. Now let's see how Don Krieg stands well with other One Piece figures in my collection. By the way, he towers over everything, but either way, here he is standing next to the other Mattel figure, that being Kuro, as well as Abi's later figure of Buggy. Here's him standing next to Shanks from the Anime Heroes line, and one of the 2003 Bandai Luffy figures I managed to get my hands on a few years back. Though he is a really tall figure, I do think he could work well in some cases, especially standing against this Luffy. Definitely makes him look a lot more opposing and powerful than he normally is. But all in all, I'd give the Don Krieg P-Rips figure here a C-, as the features it excels in, like the missiles function and the good paint and details on the armor, are somewhat ruined with a very limited movement and just a very, very bad looking face. Now, even though the face is really bad looking, that doesn't mean I don't like it. I do like it in a so bad that it's good kind of way. By judging it against other One Piece figures I have, it's really bad though. Even comparing it to another Mattel figure released at the same time, like Kuro, I think this Kuro looks awesome, and has some really great detail to it. Side note here, onto this Kuro figure, I did modify it a little bit. His gimmick being the weird dangly claws really annoyed me, so I just kinda glued them into place. But I could rip into that figure another day, if y'all want to see that. Again, I'm trying some different things here, so let me know what you think. Maybe I'll review more figures from my collection. But enough of that, we need to watch this DVD, and I really apologize for the poor footage here, but it's really the best I can get using my limitations. Either way, this isn't at all what I thought the DVD would be. I figured the DVD would be a few episodes with Don Krieg in it, but instead we get a few compilations of One Piece 4Kids dub. And just look at this menu. We have 7 different options here. The legends, the heroes, the villains, music videos, top 5 battles of One Piece, Gum Gum moves, and credits. Going in order, the legends section is just a stretched out version of the intro, talking about Gold Roger. But then it goes into the 4Kids intro, and no, I am not talking about that. Next we have the heroes. And big surprise, once again, Usopp and Nami, nowhere to be seen. just Sanji, Luffy, and Zolo. Yep, it's Zolo, remember? Gotta love 4Kids.
But there's more to this chef than meets the fry.
But for each of these character bios, it's just Mike Pollock telling us about each character and their goals. They try to drive the point here, especially with Luffy saying over and over again,
"That's right, King of the Pirates. See, I got plans. I'm gonna be King of the Pirates.
Yes.
Who's gonna be King of the Pirates?
Yes.
Just you wait and see."
What will help him win that
Say it
battle
again.
is the other goal.
Then we have the villain section, which is a huge lineup. Almost all the villains of East Blue. I mean, you're just missing Elvira and Smoker, right? We do have Don Krieg, Buggy, Kuro, Arlong, and Morgan, which, by the way, only 2 of these villains actually got figures with Mattel. Morgan and Arlong never got toys in general, and Buggy did eventually get that Obbies one I was showing earlier.
Always gets the last laugh, the last laugh. You won't get the last laugh, the last laugh. Why always get the last laugh?
But surprisingly enough, Arlong was actually going to get a Mattel figure. It would later get cancelled, sadly, because of poor sales of the current Mattel lines at the time. But it's more or less the same thing, not much else to really note here. Next we have the music video section, and we have 2 songs, You Can't Turn the Tide and Be a Pirate, which no, I'm not even going to look at them. I'm sure if you really want to torture yourself, you can just find them on YouTube or anywhere else, but yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But I will mention the fact that Chopper is here for some reason, despite not being shown anywhere on the rest of this DVD or the figure box. He's both onto the actual disc itself and into this one specific menu, so cool? Nearing the end of this DVD, we have the top 5 battles, according to 4Kids. And it just seems to be the full fight straight up from the dub. We have Mihawk versus Zolo, Luffy versus Zolo, Luffy versus Arlong, Luffy versus Kuro, and the Meow Band brothers versus Zolo. Still can't get over that name. So not a big selection as far as a top 5 goes, especially for fights in the East Blue. I mean, why not give us Luffy and Zolo working for the first time against Morgan, or Buggy versus Luffy, or even Don Krieg versus Luffy, especially saying how that's the figure I had to buy to get this DVD, so where's my Don Krieg rep? Just very surprising choices here, especially why the fuck do they have Zolo versus... And we have the last section of this DVD, which is the Gum Gum moves. And I'm not going to spend much time here, it's just a short compilation of each move Luffy does relatively often, and just kinda repeating clips of him doing it. And finally, we have the hit list, I mean the credits of this video. So all in all, for an additional video that came free with a toy, I'm sure I would have liked it as a kid, seeing more insight of the characters and a few battles, but just in total, this thing sucks. But as a relic of time, I can't seem to look away from its historical value of being in such a terrible time forgotten of One Piece history. So I'll be sure to promptly give this a proper send-off of burying it in my backyard for future generations to find and be cursed with its presence. Thanks so much for watching. As I said a few times, this is a very different video than my normal stuff that I do, but if you like it, please put down a like and leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see more of. Definitely know if you'd like to see more videos like this, because as I said, this is very much new field for me, and I did have a lot of fun making this, so I'd be more than happy to do more videos onto this, ripping through some of the other things in my collection, or I mean, I do even have some other stuff coming in the future that I could leave for new unboxing videos, if y'all would like. If you're interested in some of the other content I do on this channel, I mainly do stop motions, and I have some of my favorite runs up right now, so definitely give them a watch. Thank y'all very much, and I'll see you next time.